Good evening. Okay, so there are some issue with my notepad today, so I can't really have the lecture note and terminal side by side. So we will just switch back and forth between them. Okay, so last class we talked about different tags we used in C++. So there are 3 different types we see. So one is the char. Char is used to store only like one single character, right? And then for the char value, you will put it in the single quotes. Now for the string, right, you can use it to store a sequence of characters. And similar to string, you have C string, which you store the sequence of string in the kind of character array. Right, and then the string value will store in the double quotes. Now to access the string in C string entries, right? So if you want to access a specific character in your string or C string, you will just access it with the array notation. And we also know that each char value, right, each character are treated as a number through ASCII code in C++. Now, in terms of storing the text in beside the single character, right, we know there are mainly 2 ways to store the text in C++. One is the string, and one is the C string, right, the character array. Now, many of you asked then, what's the difference between the 2? Why do we need to separate them? So the main difference is string is a class type. Now you might ask, what's a class? That you will learn more about class in 211 class. Right. So for this class, just know for now, string is a class type. Now later we will see with class type, it will give you access to different functionalities. Okay. And the C string, again, is the character array. So it pretty much performs as the array. Now there are slightly different between the C string with the character array. Now we will mention that later when I bring up the code. Okay, I see people asking for 211 class. I won't teach any 211 class. Okay, so now let's look at the first code. So the first block of code here, we see some variable with the string type, right? So here we have the S1, right? I will just call it string 1. So we declare it as a string and we initialize it with hello. And then we have another string S2, call it worlds. And we have a third string, right, S3, and we just declare it. We just declare the variable, right? So this variable is a string type and we have nothing stored to it, right? And we know this is legal, right? This is okay. We did code similar like this before. Now, when you initialize, okay, so when you declare a variable, right? So later, if you want to store hello to S3, you can also just assign S1 to S3, right? So now when you print out S3, right, since you assign S1 to S3, we will expect the S3 now becomes hello, right? So you will print out hello. Now for the string, right, since it's string is a data type, right? We understand that as a data type before. So with the variable here, there are some operation you are allowed to use, right? So many of you asked before, can you concatenate strings, right? So you can use addition as concatenation, which means if you look at here, we have S3 plus equal S2. So plus equal, just like how we do it with the number arithmetic. The plus equals just the same as S3 equals to S3 plus 2. So this code here, it's pretty much doing the same job as this line, right? Just shortcut of the other one. So what this does is it will put S2 concatenate with S3, which means it will put S2 right after S3, right? You will add it to the S3 string. So your S3 is originally hello. Now after you concatenate the world, then your S3 now will become hello followed by world. So you have hello world with no space between them, right? Since you didn't put any space, you just concatenate them. Now, here we have S3 equals to S3 plus 2. Now what it does is it will concatenate another S2 right after the S3 and then assign it to S3. So you will add another world to your S3 and then set it into your new S3. So when you print S3 again, you will have hello world. So that's from the old S3, and then you just concatenate another S2. So you have another world. So that's where your S3 become. Okay. Now you can also just print out the concatenation. So you can have S1 concatenate with the space and then S2. Now we did not change the value for S1 and S2. So this will give you, so you will print out S1 first, so you have hello, and you concatenate with a space, so you have a space there, and then followed by world. So you have hello, a space, followed by world. Okay, so with the string type, you allow to do assignment. So if you look at here, we initialize S1 with hello. Now let's say later you want to change this hello to S2. You want to change this S1 to world. You can also do that. Just have S1 equals to S2, right? You can reassign string to it. Okay, now I see people say would S1 0. So if you want to change the first character to the lowercase, if you do S1 0 minus equal 32, then it will change the first character to the small h. Okay, so your operation there, your S, when you have S1 0, this will give you access to a single character. It will give you to first entry. So you are looking at a character. And each character is understood as a number in C++. So you allow us to add or subtract a number, and we change it will change the ASCII value, and it will print out whatever the corresponding symbol for it. Right, so it will change the character. It's not concatenating. Right. So in string, right, when you have two string, right, when you add in the two string, the addition, you are not adding the number. The addition in string means concatenation. You just put them together. You are not adding the number. Okay, I see people asking for S3 equals to S3 plus 2. Why do we have two words here? Since the old S3, we just add a word here. So from here, we just add another S2 at the end. So we add another word to S3. So we add one from here. Now we add another one in here. So we added twice. This two code does the same job. So we did it twice. Okay, are we good here? Okay, and because I don't have the terminal side by side, we will go over the next code about the C string, and then I will show you the code in the terminal. Okay, so in the C string, right, we know C string, it operates as the array of character, right? Now with array, it will involve pointer. And then pointer, it will involve the address, like the where in the computer you store those data. And those pointer will be like a deeper topic in 211. So you will learn that also in 211 class. Okay, so in general, you want to avoid pointer and array as much as possible. It's confusing to deal with it, so it's evil. So if you look at the code here, so you will see the code here. It's kind of, we want to perform similar job as the string, but it will give you a lot of problem here. Okay, so last class we learned that for C string, right, you declare it as a array, right, a character array, but you can leave the capacity blank. Then if you want to provide a capacity, that should also be allowed, right? So you might think for hello, you have 5 characters, then you just need to have a character, right, array with capacity 5. But that will actually give you a compiler error. So if you run this, the first line here already give you an error just by providing the 5 there. Now the reason is, last class I tell you C string is pretty much the character array. Now there is something I didn't tell you, is there is actually a slight difference between the character array and C string. So for C string, there's actually like an invisible character there at the end. So when we if you look at that last class, we say we can declare a C string, and we can leave the capacity blank and then just initialize it as how we initialize the string. Now, if you look at the second line, what it actually does, right? So we know the second line is good, but we had similar code last time. So what it actually does is it will create an array. We call it C string 1, and it will create an array with just enough space for your character. So it will have space for H, E, L, L, O. Now, after it stores all the 5 characters, it will actually end it with a null character. Now, this is a null character. So you also need to put it in the single quote, since it's a character. It's a null character. So C string, it's an array of characters with, or it requires a terminal null character. So each C string will always, so you will have your characters and end it by this null character. So when you want to store hello with just the size 5, you don't have enough space, right? Since the character array with space 5, it will only give you space to store 4 characters, because the null character will take up a space. So you will get a compiler error saying that the string or the C string you're trying to store is too long. So if you change this 5 to a 6, that will solve the problem. Then you won't get a compiler error. okay? And in fact, if you don't declare the capacity, like we know we can leave it blank, right? So if you don't provide the capacity, you will actually create a character array of size just enough 6. So it will be like just 1 plus the number of characters you need to store.
Wait, Professor, can you explain why you need an extra one again?
This is just how the C string is defined.
So you need a null character?
You always need a null character at the end of your string. It's just how it stores. So when you store it, you don't feel it. Like as a user, you don't really feel the null character. But when it gets stored in the program, like here, when we just have like declare a C string with empty capacity, and we want to store a string, right? It will store the string in the array, and they will secretly put a null character at the end. You just don't notice it. But that's how the C language, the C++ store the C string. So there's actually a difference between the C string and then the character array. You can have a character you can have a character array with 5 characters that just stores HELLO with no character, right? So if you want to leave it this out with just 5 characters, store this 5 character, right, with this 5 letter, that's fine. You will have a character array, right, array of 5 characters, but that's not a C string. Do we see that? So in order to be a C string, you are required to have a null character at the end. So the C++ recognize it as a C string instead of an array of characters. Okay. And then here we initialize another C string. We have CS2, and then we store the world to it. So it's similar to S1. So you will C++ will generate, right, or you will create an array of size 6 and to store it, right? So 5 space for the letter and then 1 for the null character. Now, if you remember earlier, for the string, we can declare a string and then not assign anything to it. And then if you want to assign it later, you could. Now, if you look at it, if you just want to declare a character array, now we know that for C string, we can leave the capacity blank. But if you just want to declare a character array with the capacity blank, you will actually get an error. Since C++ don't know this is a C string, it will just recognize you trying to declare a character array. But whenever you declare an array, no matter which type of array, you need to provide a capacity. So this will give you an error unless you provide a capacity to the array. So if you want to declare a character array or array for later use, then you need to give a capacity. Now, like, what if you don't know what's the size of your array? Like, you don't know how big is your array need to be. Well, then approximate it. You can make it a little larger. Just make sure you can approximate what's the size you need and then make it a little bigger so you won't run out of space. Okay, so if you want, you can declare a character array of size 100. So later, if you want to put things to it, you have enough space. You won't run out of space. Okay, and the next thing, so here, like we see the C string 2 and C string 1. C string 2 and C string 1, those are valid code, right? You are actually initialized to C string to it. And then this 2 C string have the same capacity, right? They both have 5 characters with the null character. Now you might think if you want to change the data in the second character array with the world. Like you want to replace the world with hello. With string, you can just reassign it. You can just assign S2. You can have S2 equals to S1, right? Have X1 assigned it to S2. But not in here, right? Because the C string 2 and C string 1 are stored as a character array. Now with array, you cannot do an assignment. So assignment is an invalid operation in array. It doesn't matter it's a character array or any other type of array. So with array, you can't reinitialize it. But if you already initialized the C string 1, but you already initialize, you already put something to it. Now later you want to change the data there. You can't just set the equals to another array. If you want to change the data, you actually need to get access to each entry and change each entry. So this, the second code here will give you an error message. You just can't do any assignment. Okay, and with the array, you can do concatenation as the addition sign. There's no addition sign in array. Again, it doesn't matter what which kind of array. The C string is stored as a character array, so it performs as an array. So you cannot use addition to do concatenation. For string, you can concatenate it with a plus sign since string is not an array, it's a class, right? We say it's a class type. And then you treat the string as like a data type, right? So you are allowed to add them, but not in array. Now, if you want to concatenate array, like if you want to like make your array bigger, right? Because each array, if you remember, when we declare it has a specific size. So when you concatenate two array, it makes sense that you cannot just concatenate them because you might not have enough space. So if you really need to concatenate the array, then the only thing where you can get away with it is to make a new array with enough size and then copy the data in each entry. So that's also so for the C string, that's how it works since it performs as it performs as the array of characters. Okay, and with the no characters, so one thing I want to mention before. So if you want to, besides you declare as the string, right? If you just want to initialize your C string as how you declare the array, you can also do that. Let's say we have C string 4, and then we can make the capacity 10. And then we can just initialize it as how we initialize the other array, right? So let's say we want the first character to be aged, second character to be I. And let's say that's it. That's all the character you want to store. You just want it to store high. Well, you have enough space because you already have size 10, but you just want to store 2 characters. That's fine. Now, in order for C++ to recognize it as a C string, you need to put a no character at the end. So no character will, if you want to put in your code, that will be a backslash with a 0. So that will be the no character. And then you can just stop there. You don't need to store the 10 element there. You can just stop there. Now, what it stores, like, so you will have the C string 4 with 10 like box there. right? So you have 10 position, right? And then the first character will be aged, and then the second one will be I, and then you will have your no character. Any questions here?
So from indexes 2 to 9, it's going to be null characters.
No, you will only have the 2 to be no character, and then the rest is just nothing.
So then if you see out that, it would just print out high, right?
If you see out the C string 4, it will just print out high.
And what if you try to concatenate that?
Again, with the C string, you can really concatenate with the addition sign.
Oh, okay.
So there will be special operation for you to concatenate it. You can concatenate them by function, which we will mention later, but not with the additional sign, because additional sign, the concatenation is not allowed in the array, which C string perform as array. Okay, so that's why between the which I will mention later, between the, if you have a choice, right? If you need to store your tag somewhere, you should always use the string instead of the C string, because you want to avoid array. So you will use string as much as possible unless you absolutely need to use C string, then you will use it. Okay, now we mentioned earlier, like string is a class type. Now with class type variable, there are different methods, right? So each class type will have methods. Now, if you wonder what method is just some special function you can call on, you can use it. Now, the way we use method is very similar to the way we call function. So for a function, if you want to use a function, you will just call the function name, in the parentheses you provide the argument. In the method, you will start with the variable name. Now this variable will be matched with your class type. So whatever variable you have for that class type, you can have the variable name, and then you will have the dot. Now this dot, it's what we call the methods selection operator, which it will select the method you want to use. So you will need to use a dot. So you will have the variable name dot the method name, right? So it's just like the function name, or so we call it the method name. And then in the parentheses, you will also provide whatever the input argument you need to provide. So the only difference between function and the method is method, you always use it by the wherever your variable. Right? So if your variable is that class type, then the variable can perform anything you want to perform with whatever the method that's provided for that class type. Okay. Now, how to make class method, that will be, again, the CS211 topic, which we won't go in deeper into it. And also, this is last few lecture we have this semester. Okay, so instead of looking at how we can make our own class or method, we will look at what method we can use for particularly string class, since you don't need to write it yourself, it's already there. Okay, so since we know string is a class method, so here are different methods here for we to use. So before we go into it, I will switch to terminal, and then I will show the rest of this method in terminal. Okay, can everyone see the terminal?
Yes.
Okay. Now let me just show you the code we see earlier. Right, so if you look at here, right, we will expect to print, let's see. Okay, so here, right, we first store S1 into S3, and then we will print a hello, and then we concatenate world to hello, so we'll print a hello world, and then we concatenate another world, so we'll have hello world, and then we will print S1 concatenate with a space followed by the world, then you have hello world with a space between them. So we will check, and that's what we expect earlier. Now with the second code we see earlier, like we know there will be some error. Right? When you compile it, you will get compiler error. So I will still run it just for you to see the error message. Right, so if you look at it, the first error message you see is like the array, like your string, right? Your C string is too long for the array of characters, right? Since you don't have enough space to store hello, right? Because there is a no character at the end. Okay, and the second error happens at here when we're trying to declare a C string 3 with no capacity. Now, if you look at it, right, we need a storage size, so you need to provide a capacity when you're trying to declare a character array. So whenever you want to declare an array, you need to provide the capacity. So same thing with the character array. Okay, and the next error we see is the assignment, invalid array assignment. So we can assign array to another array. And same thing with the operation plus. So plus is not a valid operation in the character array. Now from here, from the error message, you can also see, right, here when we initialize the C string 1, we have no capacity. But after we store the hello, we actually have the S1 as the character array of size 6. So if you look at it, both C string 1 and C string 2 have a size of 6. Right, so that's because the no character. Okay. Now let me show you the new code. Now here we will move on to the method we just talked about. So we know string is a class type, right? So to access to those methods, you don't need to import anything to it, right? You don't need to import anything. So the standard beginning is just like before. You can access this method as long as your variable belongs to that class, right? So as long as you can use the declare as the class type, then you can have access to the method. Okay, so the first method we will see is the dot length, right? So we will use method by, you will start with the string. So here we initialize string S as Queen's College. So if you want to find the length of this string, right? Then you can just do s dot length. Then this will return to you the length of your string, right? Number of characters in your string, in other words. So if you look at here, Queen's College. Now, if you count number of characters we have here, right? So you will start with Q. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did I miss a number? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So you have 14 characters. So it will print you 14. Okay, so we will expect a 14. Now, as that size work the same as length, right? If someone asks, what's the size of the length, you will just count number of character there. So that will also give you 14. So that length and that size give you the same answer. They are the same.
So are they the same function, like
Yeah.
the same method? Like
Yeah, they work the same. Okay, and the next method you will see is the find. So if you have, as people say, so just a preference, yes. If you want to find size of the S, you can call it whatever. Like sometimes you probably comfortable call it length, sometimes you want to call it size. Now it depends, like some class later, like you might just have the length, and some function will probably just call it size. So it really depends. It just happened that string have both length and size, and they do the same job. So both, just by the wording, you know it will return the number of characters in your string. Okay, so there's no difference between them. Now the next method is find. Now when you do the string, right, S is a string, so that find, and then in the find you will give a target. Now this target will be a string, so you will pass in a string, and then they will look for this string in your, like what we call a substring, right? It will look for this component in your string. So here you will asking it to look for the letter C. So it will return the index of the first matching character. So if you look at that, it will look for the C. So Q is at index 0, right? So it will return the index. So Q is at index 0. So we are looking for C. So 0, we don't see it. 1, we don't see it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So at index 7, we find letter C. So we will return 7. Okay, any questions? Now next, let's say we want to find E. Now if you look at it in Queen's College, there are multiple E we find, like we see here. Now with the s.find, it will find the first, it will look for the first matching index. So starting from index 0, it will look for E. So here's 0, 1, 2. It find the E, it will stop there. So it will find the first available one, and once they find that substring, it will stop and then return to you where was the index that they find this substring. So here we will return 2, right? The first E is at index 2. Now you can not only find a single character, right? If you look at the inside the find, we pass in a string type value, right? We pass in a string. So you can actually look for more than one character. So let's say you want to find like a substring E3, right? Which means you want to find like E and G are together. Now we have 2 characters here. Now the find will return to you the index of the first character when they find that substring. Okay, so we'll start at index 0. So what will the answer return? What do you expect it to return? Any guess? Okay, I see people say 11. So let's check. So starting at index 0, you don't see E. Index 1, you don't see E. Index 2, you see a E, but the next character is now a G. So you will keep moving. Now you add index 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, you find another E, and then the next one is a G. So you find E tree. In this E tree, the first character of your substring started at index 11, right? E is at 11. So it will return the index of the first character that you find it. So it will return 11. Okay. Now what about hello? If you're trying to, it will the returning type is integer. Yes, it will return an integer, but we actually return is like the position, right? It will return like a number that representing the position. So you can think of it as the returning type is an integer. Now, if you're trying to find hello in Queen's College, what do you expect the answer to be? Okay, I see people say error and I see people say -1. Well, you don't want it to you don't want to expect an error because sometimes you want to find does your string or that's your passage containing certain word, and maybe it just doesn't contain. You want the program to tell you does not find your target. Right, so I see people say -1. So -1 would be a reasonable solution, right? So if we see -1, it means you did not find it, right? So that's a very reasonable result. Okay, so we will just put that there, and then we will move on. Okay, I see people asking why is the size returning 14 not 13? Did you count the empty space between Queen's College? It's go by the index. So even the empty space is a character. Okay, it will start at 0. The index will start at 0. Right, so the index are going from 0 to 13. From 0 to 13, how many characters are there? You forgot to count the 0. So there are 14 characters, right? When you look at the length, you are not returning the index. You are returning the number of characters in your string. Okay, so if you look at the find here, we are all looking for the target from the left, right? So if you look at the E here, there are multiple E. So it will only give you the very first one they find from the left. Now you can also look for the target from the other direction, right? You can also look for it from the back, right? From the right. So if you look for the target E from the right, what do you expect your output? It will return to you not 14, 13. Right? The length is 14, so the last index will be 13. So it will return to you 13. Right? So the first character from the right is E, so you will return 13. Okay, and if you want to look for EG from the right, so if you do R find EG, it will also return to you 11. Right? Because when you look for the EG, you find the G, you find the E. Again, it will return the first character of your target. So it will return where you find the EG, and then it will return the position of the first character. So that would be the E, not the G. Okay, so just be aware of that. Now, if you look at the next one, we have this find method again. Now, instead of the target, you also have a number at the end. Now, if you see two arguments here, when you see like a target with a number, the string here tells you the target you are looking for. So you're still looking for E. Now the 7 here will tell you the index where you or the 7 here is the starting index. You are looking for the target. So instead of looking for E starting all the way from the beginning at index 0, now you will start it at index 7. So we will move to index 7. So here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So index 7 is actually started at C. So you're starting at C to look for your target E. Now you look at, is this C, E? No, right? If this C letter here is an E, then you will just return 7. That will be the first character. So the 7 here will tell you the starting position. If this position is your target, then you will just return it. So, but C is apparently not E, then we move on. So we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you will return 11. Any questions here? If you do RF, do you need to reverse the EG? No. When you reverse the EG, then you can't find it. It will still be 11. If you are look for the GE, okay. Actually, if you are look for GE, then it will return to you 12. Right? Where do you find GE? The only GE is here. Right? So it doesn't matter you look for it from the left or from the right. The only GE is here, the last 2 characters. Now, when you find it, it will return the index of the first character of your target. So first character of your target is G, and the index of G is 12. So it will return 12 if you have GE. Now, if you have EG, that's the only EG you have in your string. So you will return 11. It doesn't matter you come from the left or the right. If you want to, well, that's a good question. I see people asking, if you want to find all the index that contains E, how do you do that? Well, you definitely need a loop, right? Because you need to read through the whole string. So you can do, or you can either do like a for loop or a while loop, right? So you can do like a brute force way to do it. Just check each character, do you see it? Or you will do a find E and then see what it return. And then you will do find starting at that position plus 1. So if you check the s dot find E, you will find, or you will do find E index 0, then it will return to you 2. And then starting at 3, you will look at where's your next E, then you will return 3, and then you will start at 4, where's your next E, then you will return this one, and then starting at E, where's your next E, and then you will keep going until your number exceed the size. Right, so I see people say if you do R5, it does not revert, it just you look for the target from the right hand side. So if you do the R find once, it will find you the first E. If you do the R find, it will find you the last E, but you miss all the middle one. Okay, so that's a good question. You can try to implement it. Right, and I will say that's a good practice question. Okay, now I don't know if any of you wondering, right? We have 2 methods here with the function find. Right, you see a find here that have only 1 argument, the target, and you have another find method have the target with a number. So here you see you have 2 methods, or we call it function, with the same name. So here find here has been overloaded. Overloaded means you see 2 different functions with the same name. Now C++ allows you to do that. You allow to have method or function with the same name, as long as you it requires different inputs. Different input means it need to be different types. So if you look at the first find here, your parameter or your argument is a string, where the second find here you have a string and an integer, right? And you have a string and a starting index. So C++ will be able to distinguish which find you are looking for by the argument you provide. So that it will just match the the argument you provide by type with your function name. So it will know which function you are calling. So if you want to write function, so this work for the method and it will also work for the function. So if you want to write function with the same name, you can do that. Just make sure they require different type of input. Now, what I mean the different type of input, it could be different amount of input. It could be different data type of input. As long as like it's different, you will be able, just looking at the argument they provide, you will know which function they are looking for, then it's good. Okay. So now we have all the expected value here. So I will compile it here. Okay, and then now if you look at the output, we have 14, 14, 7, 11, and then we have this crazy number, 13, 1. So everything match with what we expect, except this crazy number that when we're trying to look for hello, like we know we cannot find it, but it does not give us -1. Now the reason is it will print us the position and then we cannot find it. So it will print you like a number that C++ recognize it as undefined, like as you can't find this target. Now, we as a human, when we read it, we'll probably get confused with this crazy number. Now, a way, like an easy way we can get over with is you can just simply go to the function and then tell C++ convert it to integer, convert it to something that we as a human can understand. So I will just convert this to integer. The other find function, if you just cast an int, it won't have any impact to it since it's already returned to you like an integer, and then it's in the valid value. And the reason is that that value it returned is not in the integer representation. I mean, it looked like an integer, but it's not. So if you cast it into an integer, it will actually give you a value you will understand. So let's compile it. And let me show you the code again. It's the same thing. I just add a cast here, convert it to integer. And then let's run it. Oh, I didn't compile it. Let's do it again. Okay, I compile the new code now. Okay, now if you look at it, it gives us -1. Right, so tell C++ print something that we can understand. So it will do the job. Okay. I know the time is over. If you need to go to the lab, you can go, but I will spend probably 5 more minutes covering a few more method. Now, if you can make it, you can watch the recording. What's the data type before? Before it's a number, but it's not in the integer. It's probably in the unsigned number. So you need to convert it into integer. Now, if you're curious, you can probably look it up. Look at how they write the find method in string. Okay. Now we're still looking at the string Queen's College. Now S is a string type, is a class type. Now we can look for substring, right? So S.substring 7, it will return to you a substring starting at position 7. So the number here 7 tell you the starting index of your substring. So if you look at here, you want to have the substring started at index 7. So if you go to index 7, you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Index 7 started at C, which means when you print the substring started at index 7, then you will get colleged. So it will print you the substring started at the index until the end. So it will just cut. So it's like it will tell you to print the substring started at 7 and then the rest. So it will copy the college. You will print out the college. Now, again, the substring is also a method that being overloaded, which means you have the same function with different argument. Now they will do different job. Now the additional integer, right? The additional argument here is the amount. So the first, if you only see one number, the number will tell you the starting index. Now, if you see a second number, the second number will be the amount of character you want for your substring. So if you don't have the second number, then you will just starting from the starting index, just copy all the way to the end. If you see the second number, then you will only copy that amount of characters. So we know the index 7 started at C. Now it will tell you only copy 3 characters. So you will only copy the capital C, O, and L. So it will print you the C, O, and L. So that's what it does. Now the s.substring, right? The substring function won't change the s function. It won't change your actual data. It won't change the string s. So when you print the s, well, s is the string Queen's College. So you have this whole thing. Okay, let me copy it. Now, if you do s.erased 6, 2. Now, if you notice it, I did not see out here, which means this method is like the void function. It's a method that won't return anything, but it will actually have an impact on s. So when you do s.erase something, it actually change your data. Now 6 will be the position, right? It will be the starting index where you want to start erasing. And then 2 will be the amount of character you want to erase. So if you, after erase, if you print out the s, so we know our s is previously Queen's College. Now the erase tell you goes to position 6. So we will go to index 6. So I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So index 6 is at this empty space. Now it will ask you to erase 2 characters from that space. So you will remove this empty space, and then you will remove this character C, since you need to remove 2 characters. So we remove the empty space and then the C. Now your string S will become Queen's College. You don't have the empty space and the C. So you have Queen's, and then just right after that, you have O, L, L, E, G. Okay, so that's the erase function. Now for the replace function, again, right, you don't see me print it out anything. So again, this is a void return type. So it won't return to anything, right? And it will have an impact on the actual function S. So here, right, so your S just get changed to the Queen's College. And now you want to replace something. So for replace, you see you have 3 arguments. So the first argument tell you the position. It will always tell you the position. So we are starting at index 0. Okay, so we are at Q. Q is index 0. Now 6 is, it will tell you the amount of characters will be replaced. So starting at 0, you will replace 6 characters. Now the last argument is a string. So it will ask you to replace this amount of characters starting at this position, and then replace with your new text, with your new string. So if you started at Q and you want to replace 6 characters, so starting from Q, you count that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it will replace the whole Queen's, right, the 6 characters with letter C. So we will delete all that. We will delete this 6 character and then just replace with a C. So this C will get replaced to 0. Okay. So now our S become just college. Now insert will take in 2 arguments. Again, the first number will tell you the position, and then the second argument will be the text message you want to insert. I see people asking from 0 to 6 get deleted. Okay, so the 0, 6 is not from index 0 to 6. It's starting at index 6, you will count, starting at that index, you will count 6 characters. So you will replace that 6 character to C. So if you change this 0 to, let's say, 2, then you will go to index 2, starting at index 2, and then you will count 6 characters and then replace the 6 character there with a letter C. Okay, and insert, again, the first integer tell you the starting position, right, the starting index, and then it will insert the new text message to it. So if you look at our S is now college. Now, if you go to index 0, so that's our C here. So instead of C, you will insert Queens with a space. So we will insert Queens with a space. So now the S will become Queens College. We just change it. We just change it back. Okay. So let's save the code and then let me quickly run it. Okay, so if you look at the output here, that's what we expect. College, COL, Queens College, Queens College, Queens College. Any questions? Okay, so replace will have 3. Okay, can everyone see the boards here? So the replace will have 3 arguments. Right, so the first number, the first integer here tell you the position you are looking at. So you will go to that index and then count that amount of characters, and those characters will get replaced by the new text. So let's say you have S equals to Queens College, right? Then Queens College have index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now let's say you want to do a replace of 3 and then erase. Okay, you want to replace 5 character. What do you want to replace? Let's say you want to replace it with just high. Okay, so what it does is it will go to index 3. So where's index 3? So if you count it, 1, 2, 3, 0, we will start at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So index 3 is the second E here. So starting at this index 3, you will count 5 characters. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, here. So from index 3 to 5. So here you have 5 characters. Do you see that? We have 5 characters here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you will replace this 5 character with high. So now your new string, if you do s dot replace 3, 5 high, then your new S will become QUE, and then it get replaced by HI, HI, and then OLLEGE. So your new S will become this string. Okay, so play around with the indeterminate, make your own string, and then try to play around with those methods, and then see what does it print out and how does that have impact on your variable. Get used to it. Okay, and there's one method I did not mention in the code. That's the C_str. That will return to you the C string version of the string. So remember earlier I say, whenever you have a choice between string and C string, you should always use string, unless you absolutely need a C string, which means you can always start with a string. When you really need to have C string, convert it. But you have method to change the string type to the C string. So you can convert it and then use it as C string. Okay, in next class, we will talk about what can we do with C string. There's not as much as string, but there are some built-in function you can use for the C string. So we will talk about that next class. Okay, the final exam for this section, it's already up on Blackboard. So I believe for this section, it will be December, let me check, December 21st. So it will be on Tuesday evening. Now, if you cannot make it, you should email me as soon as possible, which I might let you to take it with other section, which will be the Thursday in 2 weeks. So if you know in advance you cannot take it the Tuesday the 21st, then you should email me as soon as possible. The final exam will be 2 hours, so you will get more questions, and final is cumulated. I mean, it's a coding class, everything is cumulated. Okay, so the final exam will be started at 6:15 to 8:15. I will probably send announcement out, or I will also post the final exam day on the Blackboard announcement. And if I do, you will get an email notification. The exam 2 scored, it will be out either later tonight or tomorrow. For those who receive a 0, that means your exam has found suspicious or it's being suspected cheating, because some of you answering question not match with your question. You are answering question from the earlier section, so that's clearly cheated. So for those students who got a 0 on the exam, and all the report has been filed to the department and the school. So you will see. Other than that, you will see your exam 2 score up later today or tomorrow. Okay, so if you don't see it tonight, you will see it tomorrow. Okay. Have a nice weekend.